Friends, Jay Paulides, Canada Missing Project. That is the executive producer. Huck, she's a good girl, yeah? Yeah, she's a good girl. Yeah, she's been outside. We went in the river yesterday. People say, oh, Great Pyrenees don't swim. That's an absolute lie. It was 90 degrees. And I put on my river shoes, and as long as I go out in the river, she'll go out in the river with me. Swims around, has fun, gets all nice and cool. And she gets all nice and white, cleans herself up real good. Yeah, it's a good girl. Yeah, it's a good girl. You had fun yesterday, huh? It was good, yeah. Yeah, you're a good girl. Yeah, it's a good girl. Yeah, it's a good one. Well, friends, you can go rent right now Missing 411 National Parks, Washington State on Amazon, next to nothing. Please go over there and watch it and then leave a review. Interesting. I think it's interesting. A couple people have gotten back to me and said, Dave, we can't leave a review on Amazon. No. You can leave a review. It's just maybe a little complicated how to get to it. When you're on Amazon, top right, it says your account. Click on your account. Then it says your purchases. Click on that. And then a purchase is a rental. Go over there, click on the rental, and that'll take you to a place where you can do a review. Real easy to do. Helps us a lot. Appreciate it. We always talk about hiking safety, backpacking, things like that. Something happened here in Montana a few days ago that I gotta say, I followed backpackers, hikers, and their escapades all over the world. I've never heard of this. Let me read you the story. And it happened in Montana. That's in the Beartooth Mountains. A 32-year-old nurse, male nurse, was impaled in a freak accident on Montana's tallest mountain before hiking 10 miles back down to get help. Dave Cifaldi was scaling Granite Peak with two friends on July 20th when he lost his footing on the rocky terrain and fell onto his trekking pole. It was just a freak thing, something you'd more expect to roll your ankle versus having a catastrophic injury, he told KTMF. As I rolled over, I noticed one of my trekking poles lying on the ground, and as I kind of sat up, I realized that the other one was stuck in my side. The pole drove completely through Cifaldi's side, piercing his lat and sticking out both ends with roughly 8 inches separating the two wounds. Cifaldi's an ER nurse, and his training kicked in. He self-assessed his wound and took a few quick breaths to see if the pole pierced his lung or his chest. There was really no bleeding. Full feeling, no lightheadedness, nothing vital hit, and the pole was in a stable place. Given his condition, he made the call to self-rescue rather than wait for extraction, hiking 10 miles back to the trailhead with a trekking pole sticking through his body. He navigated the rugged mountain descent with the help of his two pals while the pole remained lodged in his body. You guys won't believe this. Photos are absolutely unreal. So this is him. He's on the side of the mountain right here. There's the pole sticking through him and coming out the side, the trekking pole. But that's not the picture that's really baffling. The one that's really baffling is when he's sitting in the ER, and that's the picture. He said it wasn't painful, said it went through, it stayed outside of his chest cavity. As the grueling hike wore on, Cifaldi told Backpacker magazine that the trio realized they were going to make it and broke the tension by making kebab jokes. Cifaldi's hiking buddy Jesse Ross wrote that the group reached the trailhead safely under his own power, never once complaining, staying in remarkably high spirits. Near Mystic Lake, he even asked one of us to hike ahead and warn other hikers so no children would have to see the wound. The three friends reached the trailhead after 6.5 hours. Cifaldi was taken to a hospital before being transferred to Intermountain Health in Billings. Doctors later removed, by the way, Intermountain Health is the place where he works as an ER nurse. They removed the trekking pole without complications. All told, the pole was in place for 8 to 9 hours. Cifaldi is still recovering and may need more surgery. Reflecting on the harrowing accident, he told the outlet he feels very lucky. A couple of inches the other way and this would be an entirely different story. Now here's the part, I read like 4 or 5 articles about this. And what that article doesn't say, the reason he trekked out, because they had a communication device with him, smart, is that he didn't want to pay for the helicopter extraction. And he said, well, I think I can make it. So let's save the $20,000 bill and I'll walk out. Wow. Wow. Well, it's a good thing he is a nurse, an emergency room nurse, and he's seen probably quite a few things. And he could self-assess and decide if he was good to go. He was good to go. Amazingly lucky man. Lucky man. Now, the story I'm going to tell you today, it's about a missing person. And it first came up 2 years ago. And from the time I told this story 2 years ago, so much has changed. 80% of the story has changed. There's more available. I said, hey, I got to tell this one because it's unbelievable. Now, I've done a lot of stories in the UK about young people, college-aged young people, mostly men, that have disappeared after leaving and walking away on their own after drinking. The vast majority are later found in a river, lake, deceased. Like a vast majority. And this isn't just another cookie cutter case of the ones I've talked about before. I wrote a book called Missing 411, A Sobering Coincidence. I wrote it about 10 years ago. Still holds up perfectly. And what I explain in that book is exactly what I'm going to explain to you today. Jack O'Sullivan, 23 years old, went missing March 2nd, 2024 and he was a student, actually, he is a graduate of Exeter University. And he was taking college courses, postgraduate courses at Bristol in law. He just finished his first round of exams and his family said he did really well and was happy. To save money while he was going to postgraduate school, he was living with his parents while he was taking his law classes. Now, the family lives in a home on the outskirts of Somerset, outside of Bristol, in a very rural area. Now, the important part to remember about this is Jack was known to be, how can you say this? Just a real square guy. Never did drugs, didn't drink a lot, liked to socialize, but he wasn't a partier. He wasn't someone who dabbled in weed or coke or anything like that. Just wasn't his thing. Well, while living at home, his mom and dad said, you got to live under our rules. Now here's what's funny about that. And this is funny because I remember this clearly. I was going to college and I got accepted by the police department. And they gave me like a 3-week notice that the police academy starts this date, blah, blah, blah. And bam, I had to rearrange my whole life and I just talked to my mom and dad, and I said, hey, would you mind if I lived with you while I went through the academy? 6 months. And of course my mom said, oh yeah, for sure. So I come in and move everything in, and then they sit me down and they go, hey, you got to live under our rules here. I said, oh, what does that mean? They said, well, you can't indiscriminately leave, indiscriminately come home whenever you want. You got to come home at a reasonable time, or at least tell us when you're going to come home, or if you're not going to come home. I said, sure. And it wasn't a big deal, and it was a stable environment for me to study, not worry about having to work and go to the academy at the same time. It was just the ideal situation to go through the academy, do well, and get out. And then after I got out, I went through training, and I wasn't even halfway through training. I knew I was going to make it, and I got a place to live, and I moved out. But Jack's family telling him that, I said, hey, I get it. I went through the same thing. So on March 1st of 2024, Jack's friends that he was going through these law classes with, his law class, were going to get together and spend the night out. And he told his parents that, yeah, I'm going to go out and I'll keep you informed. I'll text you when I'm coming back, blah, blah, blah. They said, great. So the first stop that this group made was a place called Wetherspoons in the city centre in Bristol, UK. And the group stayed together. They were having fun. They decided to continue socializing later that night, and they all went to one of their homes outside, just on the outskirts of the city. Now this is a map this is where Jack lived, and this is the River Avon, and the house that they were going to was on this road called Hotwell Road on the other side of the river. I cannot tell you how many times rivers in the UK play into what I'm telling you. So they go to Wetherspoons, they have a great time, they go to this other house, they're having a good time. At about 1:52 a.m., Jack texts his mom and said he was fine. He was at a home on Hotwell Road, Bristol. Said he'd get a taxi to take him back to their home outside of Somerset. Now, he hadn't been drinking at Wetherspoons, not intoxicated, and in fact, all of his friends said he wasn't even close to intoxicated. Well, apparently, Jack couldn't get a taxi to come outside the city to pick him up. And so the theory is that he walked towards the city center in an effort to get a taxi. It was about 5 miles from where this party was at this house to where his parents lived. Not an exorbitant amount for a 23-year-old to walk, but you don't want to walk it at 3 in the morning. Why not? Well, everyone knows that at 2, 3 in the morning, there's a good chance that 40% of the people on the road are drunk. And if you're walking on the side of the road, you may get hit. So that was at 1:52, he called his mom. At 2:57 a.m., he's caught on CCTV walking south along Christine Terrace. And then he's seen on the Junction Swing Bridge. Now, this wasn't far from the home. And again, the theory was he was walking towards a location near the city to get a taxi. So about 15 minutes later, 3:13 a.m., he's caught on CCTV walking under the Brunel Way flyover. And then at 3:38, he's caught on CCTV walking over the Plumsell Swing Bridge. Let's go fast forward a little bit. When he eventually didn't come home, his parents called the police, a big investigation, blah, blah, blah. And the police try finding him on CCTV from the party towards his house. Well, it turns out that the police missed a lot of CCTV that he was in. And his mom went back and reviewed it and found him in 2 of these footages. This one I just told you about, his mom said, yeah, that's the clothing he was wearing, and that's his walking gait for sure. It's unmistakable. Well, this kind of put the family on edge a little bit, that maybe the police weren't as thorough as they should have been. At 6:44 a.m., there's a grainy image of a man crossing Brannan Way on their north end. Nobody's sure. Some people think it might have been Jack, but other people say it wasn't. Now, at the 3 o'clock image, 3 a.m. image is the last time that he was for sure seen, that anyone could positively ID him. But that 6:44 time is the last time his phone pinged off a cell tower at a place called Granby Hall. Nobody knows if the phone went dead. Nobody knows what happened. That was the last time it pinged off a tower. And that's important for law enforcement when they're trying to track somebody, right? Yeah. Keep that in mind. Now, this case fits the profile of dozens and dozens of young men missing in Europe and the US and Canada under almost identical circumstances. Here's the profile. They're all men. They're all college-aged. Let's just say between 19 and 35, predominantly 19 to 26. They are all walking alone. They are all near water. There's never a witness to what happens. And their cell phones all go dead. These people are responsible individuals. They had been drinking at some point in the night. 95 to 98% are found in water. And it's unknown in every instance how they got in the water. The time frame of the disappearance is always between 11:30 and 6 a.m., predominantly 12 to 3 a.m. This is very, 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 underlined, very similar to US and Canadian cases. And I outlined them in Missing 411, a sobering coincidence. So it's not like I'm trying to put a square peg in a round hole. Understand? Now, the parents stated very early on, even when I first did this, months after it happened, they were extremely unhappy with the police. But much more came out. This is something new. Before Jack went out that night, he had purchased an Apple AirTag earlier in the week. And he was showing his family how it worked. And he put the AirTag on his keychain. And he demonstrated it for his family. Well, after he disappeared and after the family called the police and reported him missing, the family asked the police to contact Apple to obtain data on the AirTag. Reasonable. Police should have done that from the beginning. Well, the police told them that because of privacy laws, it prohibited the police and the family from accessing the data. What? What? It's a possible criminal case, but it's a missing person. I would at least try with Apple. Well, the family contacts a UK lawyer, and he said that the police response was, quote, ridiculous when it involves a missing person. So the family goes back to the police and explains the lawyer's position. First of all, the police should be embarrassed that they said that. That's like a get out of here statement. I don't like it. Well, the police later stated that they accessed the data, but the battery must have been low and they had no ability to download the data. Sounds like a bunch of garbly gook. If you access the data, then you either saw it or you had it. I don't get it. And then the police came back to them and said that the battery might have been low and that it was never set up correctly. Then they said to the family on another incident that he never set it up correctly, and it appears that it was set up in his girlfriend's name. How many different scenarios do you throw at a family hoping that something sticks and they just go away? That's what I'm feeling. And I'm not liking this one at all. The family said, well, but wait a minute. Jack demonstrated this on his phone. Uh-oh. Oh, shoot. This is the police thinking, oh, so you know it works. And you know that Jack has it on his, geez. So the police contact the girlfriend, and the girlfriend says, no, Jack never registered it on my phone. It shows him the phone, there's nothing on it. The family explained that these type of interactions with the police have become normal. And they have no idea who they can trust. And when you're looking at the one agency that really could find their son, and you have no confidence in them, what do you do? Well, in the U.S., I know what I would do. I'd contact the FBI. And I'd probably go to GoFundMe and hire a private investigator that knew what life was all about and could figure this out. But you're in the UK. Then at about a week into the investigation, Jack's friend contacts them and says that he tried to call him at 3:24 a.m. The friend said he missed the call, but called him right back and said that when he called him, Jack said hello, and then immediately the phone went dead. Two things about this. So the phone pinged off a tower at 6:44 a.m., meaning the phone didn't go dead at 3:24 a.m. when his friend called. So why would Jack's phone go dead, or why would he hang up calling his friend like that? That makes no sense. That's a big red flag. Now, why can't the police find out where that phone pinged and what tower it was using at 3:24 a.m. to find the location? That's never been addressed. I'm not that smart, but I think I could figure that part of it out. Now, it's been 2 years since this incident happened. A little more than 2 years. Jack's mom gave an interview and said that not long after he disappeared, the family gets a phone call from an anonymous source saying that they knew where Jack's body was located. They said that he got killed in relationship to a drug deal that went bad. The mom said that she and her husband believed that this was just somebody trying to get money out of him because they knew Jack would have nothing to do with drugs, so a drug deal gone bad wouldn't make sense. Now, Jack's mom is what's called a matron at the local school, and Jack's dad is a teacher in the school. Reputable people, upstanding citizens. So the police early in the investigation had told the family that statistics say that Jack is in the water somewhere. Probably the first true statement that they told this family during the entire 2.5 years that this has been going on. So the police decide that they're going to have their maritime division right after he disappeared, searched the River Avon and all that area around the river. Well, they find nothing. Then they contact a man named Mike Ferguson. He's a very, very long-time local sailor, and for the last 8 years, he's been the harbor master. Understands the currents, the water. Well, he was interviewed by the police, and then local news gets a hold of him and asks him. So the police told the family that statistics say he's in the water. And they said, well, have you reviewed the search of the water, the contents of their reports, etc., and the probability that Jack's in the water? Here's what he states. Quote, it is impossible that Jack had entered the water and not be found. He said that there is no way he's in the water. Wow. That's some strong words. But you know what? That's the same thing I've stated in the past after these searches don't find people. And then magically, days, weeks later, they show up back in the water. So I understand why Mike said that. I've said that before on other searches. Catherine, Jack's mom, gave an interview to People magazine this year, 2026. She stated, quote, he just vanished into thin air. How many times have we heard that from family members? She stated later in the interview that she thinks that somebody does know something about what happened. She's also stated in interviews that she has a gut feeling that he's alive. That's an interesting... Moms have a gut feeling. If he is alive, where? He's too good of a kid, too straight of an arrow, to want to purposely leave that family atmosphere in his school. I don't believe it. I don't believe it 1%. The family... I wish this had happened in the U.S. Because I would contact them. And I would find them a good private investigator. And you see, in the United States, the majority of the states have a State Department of Investigation that kind of oversees everything that happens in the state criminally. Missing persons. UK, I have no idea if the local jurisdiction fails you, what you do. In the US, you have a couple different avenues. FBI, state investigators, private investigators. These people are really in a bad strait. I don't like the way they were treated, and they were given answers that were blatantly false. That makes me not only mad, but really, really suspicious. Very, very mad. You know, police are given a lot of authority, a lot of latitude to do the right thing. And when you're given that latitude, that's a lot you've got to live up to. And when you don't stand up and do everything you can to help somebody in the worst position of their lives, and you continually lie to them, you are worthless garbage. And I've read what the head of the police department has said, and either he's a liar or he doesn't have a clue as to what's going on. I hope that somebody over there listens. Maybe a retired police investigator can help this family over there. But they need the help, and they deserve the help. No family deserves what's happening right now. Jack has a brother. Ironically, the brother's name is Ben. Ben and Jack were tight. Ben hasn't said a lot, but he's said enough that I understand that he's hurting too. I really appreciate you being here. Remember, kindness is key. It doesn't cost anything to be kind. You are appreciated. Thanks for watching my videos. My website, missing411.com. Paulides out.